who's here. Erika's going to give a talk this morning. We're going to spend all day tomorrow at my house with a culminating ritual at night, and then overnight, and then something on Saturday. Because I've been at the hunger strike at the Board of Supervisors, it's so moving to practice with people in the world that don't look like us, that look just like us, speak a different language, to be with deep-hearted people and with other interfaith leaders is, I thought, we don't need to go away and sit in my little house all secluded and safe. We need to go sit in the world. So Erika and Chelsea and I are going to be sitting tomorrow from 9 o'clock in the morning until about 3 in the afternoon with everyone and fasting with everyone. And then we'll go home to my house and we'll do the rituals. But it feels like symbolically, it feels important. So first of all, I want to say the fasters are there through next Tuesday morning in front of the Board of Supervisors. It's especially important if you can be there on Tuesday morning because there's a Board of Supervisors meeting, and the request is, they say demand, I don't know what language to use, is why are we not passing a sanctuary ordinance in this county? I mean, and they have lots of reasons, and they're all good reasons, but to me, this, anyway. So if you can be there Tuesday, but you can just come and during any of this time and just drop in, just sit, just bring a chair, bring a cushion, doesn't matter, yeah, just a second. And also why it feels important for Erika and Chelsea and I to go, because Morgan asked this morning, we'll do more of this on Tuesday, because Tuesday, please be here in the afternoon, regular time, because we'll be doing a ceremony with Chelsea, all of us. Please, please, please be here. A priest path feels to me, my experience is it's a calling. Some people just want to be priests. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It's like, you just sort of like, you try to talk yourself out of it or whatever, but it's just like, and that's a particular path. And in that path, the primary thing is you're responsible for the lineage. You have to know the forms. That's why priests do the service. You are the one who can care, who can do jukais, who can ordain people. That's your primary job, is to make sure that Suzuki Roshi's lineage continues in that formal way. Lay entrustment is new, and so it's still being formed. I mean, in terms of what it means. It's someone who's practiced for a long, long time as a lay person, who's completely dedicated to this practice and whose practice is dedicated to the world. I mean, we're all lay people in the world. We're all lay priests. We're all, none of us are, except for small periods of time, monastics. But the primary focus of a lay person, in some ways, they're much freer because they don't have to, nobody has to do anything. But if you're a priest, you should really study Dogen. I mean, you should really study. You should really know this stuff over time. I mean, I don't know any of it, but you devote yourself to it. Layperson, you can do the same thing, but it feels like going and sitting with hunger strikers in the world. That feels, and I mean, it could have 100 million different manifestations, but this is the one that's in front of us right now. And there's no one way to do it, but the focus is being a bodhisattva in the world. So maybe that helps a little bit. So having said that, and priests, absolutely, priest in the world, layperson in the world, please, I'm wearing my rakusu. I wore my okeso when I helped open the ceremony, the hunger strike. Everybody has their place and their role. So, yeah. Did you want to say something really briefly?
Yeah, there were a few of us that were talking yesterday at the hunger strike about would be great if we could get some people from the Saga that wanted to go, and it might be easier if we could carpool. So if you're in Sebastopol, Beth and I are both gonna be driving. We're gonna leave from my house at 8 o'clock to try to get there at 9. Gretchen has said that she would take people from, say, Petaluma, Pembroke, in that area. We need somebody from Santa Rosa that would be.
You're talking about on Tuesday?
On Tuesday.
On Tuesday, yeah,
So
great.
if you want to ride from any of those places, either get in touch with Gretchen, Susan, me, or Beth.
You guys all heard that, okay? Yeah, great. Okay, so now thank you. It's so sweet to look up and see. I just love watching you walk in. And you don't have to walk in. You're here wherever you are. Okay, I'm gonna pass this to Erika with such delight. She flew in from Colorado to be here, for goodness sakes. And she's also gonna be our Tenzo, so she's gonna, for those of you who went to Aravipa Canyon, know Aravipa. Tenzoing is, Erica's gonna feed us this weekend.
Okay.
And you wanna start with the before lecture chat?
Before lecture. Yes. Ready. And unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Having it to see and listen to remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's words. Okay, so thank you everyone for being here and listening. And I guess, you know, in preparation for Chelsea being receiving a lay in preparation for Chelsea receiving a lay ordination, we have studied
Entrustment.
entrustment. We have studied about ritual and read Paula Rai's book, the little Zen book of healing. And so I want to talk a little bit about kind of ceremony, ancestors, kind of the ritual things. And I think from the point of view of that I think that as Buddhism has come to the West, we dropped away a lot of the ritual part out of our sense of the kind of the age of reason, and that we're Westerners and are in a more like, if you can't touch it and name it and measure it, that it doesn't exist. And so I think that vast generalizations obviously, but I think that we have lost something, or we lost something even in our greater culture from this age of industrialization, and that somehow people in cultures that worship ancestors or believe in things outside of our physical world are superstitious or silly, or that's kind of backwards, primitive, something like that. So I just kind of want to bring that forward again, that these things are so valuable. And yeah, in Paula Rai's book, she spoke about creating, creating altars in our homes. And I'm sure many of you do that. And I have, over time, it's been just kind of natural to do that, like to create sacred space within our homes. We're not monastics, we're not living in the temple, but we can make our home be our temple from just, creating I have a little kitchen altar. Now my kitchen altar has Ganesha, the Hindu Indian headed god, whose whose attributes are well, he's wisdom, knowledge, but also abundance and prosperity. And as a kitchen god, I think it's lovely to have that kind of sense of abundance and jolly belly. And he's just very, sweet and and what I mean, I have a meditation altar where I sit as well, that has all the things on it. But and then also recently, I started an ancestor altar. And the ancestor altar is just a shelf in my, it's actually in my living room, but it's a shelf and I have pictures of, um, you know, family members who are deceased now, my mother and grandparents and all those people. And um, and so I've decorated it with crystals and rocks and feathers that I found and can offer incense to them or offer flowers, take a bowl of water and imagine that, well, I intend that this bowl of water um, is like wish granting jewel, like it has everything that that they might want, food and good wishes and these things. So I offer, so I'll bring, fresh water to them. And um, and the ancestors are not just necessarily the people or I know my recent ancestors, but also ancestors can be plants and like a lot. I have a picture of the redwood trees because my ancestors makes me cry. My ancestors are redwood trees, and so um, yeah, and the cactus, the great cactus from Aravaipa Canyon. Those who've been there, that mother cactus that's like 30 feet high and 20 feet in diameter, hundreds of years old. And so ancestors are really, that aspect, they can bring a sense of, well, their wisdom and their care, their awakened care for us. And we can ask them to to help us in various ways. I think Paula, let me see, what'd she say about it? She said, this is back to people. Many Japanese people experience deceased loved ones as personal Buddhas. Upon death, all limitations in life are shed as one is released back into the universal energy. A personal Buddha may resonate with a sense of like guardian angels or patron saints. And I really, and we also have so many lineages, like we have our Buddhist lineage and can go back to, Dogen and Bodhidharma and Mahapajapati and the Buddha, and it just, it spreads back. And then and to call on for wisdom and help and and um, and then personally, we have our ancestors of where we're from. So for me, it's mostly Northern Europe. And so I can imagine, believe, think that I can look back to, Norse shaman women or who, the people who were strong thousands of years ago. I mean, there's no limit end to it, really. Um, and so, yeah, that really, I think I've shared this before, but there's when, in doing ancestor practice, or even sitting in the beginning of Zazen, or going out to give a talk, or going to sit at the hunger strike, we could call on our ancestors around us and ask them to come and be with us and support us and care for us. And so I do that and call on them. Now, we have personal ancestors who we have conflict with, weren't that, I mean, mothers, fathers, grandparents, whoever was not particularly, when we think of them, we don't have a wonderful feeling. We can also just ask them to stay outside of our circle. We don't have to enter, and say, we'll get to you. We'll get to you when we're ready or when you're ready. But as far as support, we want to invite the ancestors that have the power and the beneficence and the ability to support us, right? So I call on them, invite them in, and also to share, like, to share in our practice, and also to develop their practice for, or their, I say practice, but their being further. And so for me, it's like, in the redwoods, there's that circle of trees that I call it a fairy ring. When the big tree in the middle dies, and then a bunch come around, the small ones, and they make a really beautiful circle. And then they grow up. So in that, when I'm driving my car up here on the freaking freeway, I ask for my redwood fairy circle to come around and protect me, So, yeah, that's, yeah. So we could do that. We could ask for our ancestors to come and be with us in this moment. Near ones, far ones, all of our lineages, seen and unseen. Invite them to come and sit with us and around us and offer us their loving kindness and their wisdom, and their protection, their beneficent care. And then say at the close of practice period of sitting, as we could visualize, imagine, feel that all the loving kindness of these benefactors, seen and unseen, of these lineages, known and unknown throughout time and space, pour their loving kindness. It's like a meta meditation, really. Pour their loving kindness into us, into our hearts, into our being, to our bodies, this physical body. That we have a being. We're this physical body. And this loving kindness pours into us. Every muscle and bone and cell, and the spaces between the cells, and the heart space, spaciousness. And we allow that just to enter us fully. And in that way, then we're able to offer it out. So you can't pour water from an empty pitcher. And so we need to remember to fill our own body, mind, spirit. So related to this, last May, I went to Glastonbury, England, and I went to Glastonbury, England for two things. Well, Lama Radowans, who is a young, well, relatively young American Buddhist who teaches in the out of the Vajrayana tradition, the Tibetan Vajrayana tradition, was giving a meditation retreat very near Glastonbury. And I have always wanted to go to Glastonbury to visit the Chalice Wells, because the old well was this sacred place for thousands of years, right? Prehistoric. And there's two wells there. I didn't know. There's a red well that has iron in it and it runs red, and it's the woman's well, the female well. And then another 50, I don't know, 100, a little close by, but little ways over, is the white well, and that's the masculine energy, and that runs sulfur, and that's why it's white. But the red well is the one. And so I went there, and I mean, in this time of such uncertainty in this world, and now in our government, and climate change, the climate has always been my number one thing that I have been concerned about. And we're kind of at this moment, we're going nationally, we're going backwards with that, right? So in the interest of listening to the earth and asking the earth what she could need or use, or how I can best be of service, I wanted to go to the red well. So I went and I sat there for a couple of days, and it's a beautiful, serene, lovely place, and asked the earth, how I could help. And earth did not speak to me at that time. I didn't hear, I was like, I'm there, and this is great. And the mystique kind of going to the sacred place. And it's just like every other place. It's very ordinary, but it's also a sacred place. Really struck with me. Then after a couple of days, I went off to the meditation retreat, which was, 15-minute car ride there. And there, there was one session that we were doing a Tara mantra. I mean, it's more, Vajrayana practice is more, not so much focus on silent meditation, is more on mantra and sadhana practice. And so we're doing this by Tara, Om Tare Tu Tare Tu. So Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re So Ha. That's the cadence of it. And there's a big drum going, and so 50 people in the room, and some people are crying and sobbing and having all kinds of, there's just like, it's like a cacophony of things going on. And so I'm chanting, and all of a sudden I have this vision of like the hell realms, because everybody's like sobbing, and there's the drum, and it's like all this going on, and then Jizo comes down. This is a vision of Jizo coming down. I'm like, really a devotee of Jizo. I haven't been. I mean, and we're doing the Tara mantra. You know, like where did Jizo show up from? But there he did. They did, and they did, and so I found this, like I had a momentary of experience of like, oh, this is how Jizo goes into the hell. This is fearlessness. Like this is how Jizo goes into the hell realms because Jizo, I experienced that incredible like lightness and sense of spaciousness and open, and that one could go into very difficult situation and hold that awakened care, hold that power, you know? And I mean, so that was a momentary vision, you know, like we have these momentary visions, and then the Zen response is, well, that's great, you know, go sweep the walk, right? Right? Which is true, because you have to come home and do the laundry and sweep the walk. And then, so since then, so this was back in May. So since then, I've been kind of like, well, how does that integrate, or how do I integrate that into you know, my daily life? Because I don't go around all the time feeling like Bodhidharma flying on a reed, you know, across the Yangtze River. I don't feel like Jizo coming down with his staff with glowing light. You know, it'd be nice, but I so I got back to, this is how we help in the world, and this is how we are able to face our fear. You know, as I wake up in the morning with fear these days, a lot of times, just pure fear. And so how do we face that? And so it brings me back to the ancestor altar, calling on support of the ancestors, sitting zazen, being present in the present moment. You know, relying on our you know, our practice, our life, our remembering, you know, coming back to ourselves. And so I think that's where those visions are, or how it comes back to ritual, to ancestors, to calling on the redwood trees, to, you know, making dinner in the kitchen with our altar there. That's where it manifests. And then the more we're able to do that, then the more we're able to sit at the hunger strike and you know, face what we're facing in our country today. Yeah. Um, I think that's all I have to say right at this moment. So thank you so much.
Can I say some things in
Sure.
response?
Sure.
Thank you. I want Jizo, some of you know, Sherry through Susan, through Jizo is begun a project of making little Jesus to represent each of the children that have been killed in Gaza. And I think we're going to get the names of the children killed in Israel too. So if you're interested in that, and as Morgan and I were talking this morning, it's a big dive into a lot of suffering. And there's also something really wonderful about sitting around a kitchen table, just making little Jesus in your, there's something so Jesus-like and affirming. I also want it is because ritual, being a Zen person, when I go to this hunger strike, which you guys, some of you, is I would like do more ritual, it's like I get up in the morning and like, where's the ritual? We did a beginning ritual. We didn't, I mean, and then you watch your mind and then, so one thing I'm just going to tell a story on myself culturally is I feel really protective of these hunger strikers because, I mean, they're not eating for 7. I just feel so motherly. One of the women is a young mother. She's doing it because of her child, and and they're doing it because their children and their grandchildren and their. So someone said, "Should we have some music? Can we bring a band?" And I'm so Zen. I went, "Oh no, we should keep it quiet." And they all went, "Yeah!" So Friday night there's Aztec dancers coming. Saturday night there's a band coming. Sunday afternoon there's a band coming. It's just and then yesterday this amazing, so tall, so present. She was so young. I said to her, "How did you learn this?" She was smudging everybody who wanted to with copal. It's like rituals are just different culturally, but once you know them in your bones, it's like it doesn't matter what they look like or they. I was so moved by it. And then just one other thing. Let's see where our time was. Paula Arai, who is a lay practitioner and who has practiced really seriously in a woman's monastery in Japan, and then practiced really seriously with lay women in particular, and has written books about that. It looks like all the rituals happening in the temple, which is mostly looks like men, and what are these women doing? And lo and behold, women have all these amazing, including ancestor altars and everything. I mean, they're tending the whole bigger picture of it all and taking care of what's in front of them and the family. And anyway, there's a beautiful book, which I think maybe we've done a little of, but so I'm saying this just as a kind of, when you say things in the world, maybe it helps things happen. I had this thought is when you do during the Shiho, the Dharma transmission, because these rituals are really abiding in me. You do a lot of the chanting of the ancestors. You chant the ancestor name, the traditional names, and then you also chant, now we chant the women's names, and you do it every day. And it's very much, I mean, this is an ancestor practice. For a long time, it was traditional, which was mostly men. And of course, the women were always there. And then suddenly somebody said, well, where are the women? So then they made up a list of women. And now it's and the traditional list now is like, I'm on it, and others, it's like, and you guys are on it, because if you do Jukai or whatever, your name becomes part of the blood vein. But I had the thought of, we don't have a chant list for the lay people, the ancestors across time and space who are lay, who didn't take monastic vows. And maybe it's time for that too. Maybe just nobody ever thought of that before. And so I started fishing around and asking people, and wrote to Paula Arai, and it sounded to me like she's interested. She said, this is an immense project, which is, I suppose, for something to happen well, it needs to be an immense project of who are, I mean, we know the Pang family, we know Vimala Kirti, but I'm holding this with the lay ancestors, that maybe it's time that we have that chant list too, so that those of us who are lay people and not an ordained lineage, they're all here, but we can call out their names too. So these things are alive. That's what's so cool about this, is they're completely alive. Anyway, that's my little,
Right.
no,
So we have time for some groups, right?
yeah, little ones, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so, so our question is, how do we contact our ancestors?
Ooh, that's interesting.
And, and anything else, and how do we, how do we face our fear and anxiety and great grief in the midst of all of this? Because it's great grief for me too. I called my Congress people last week to talk about Gaza, and I got a real live person on the phone. My
Wow.
congresswoman has a real live person answer the phone, and I start to talk about it, and I am weeping on the phone and get off, and I'm just gone for, just sobbing. So, but I think that's the appropriate response too. I mean, I think that deep grief, in the face of 18,000 children killed in Gaza is is an appropriate response. And then also to allow that to move through us, so that then we can acknowledge that and not turn it into rage or self-loathing or however else we might move it around.
Can I add one thing? I can't remember if Sherry said this in her Way Seeking Mind Talk or in the Qigong class, but she said she's been grappling with getting the names of the children and not knowing how that might manifest. And the Washington Post just published all the names.
Yeah.
Really?
Which it gives me shivers to
Yeah.
think of that, how real that makes it. And but again, just thinking of what a vast question that is, and then all of a sudden there it is.
Wow.
Names of,
Names.
and I'll say that, and then we'll just, I think just we should have two people just turn to each other with this question. But for me, part of the gift of going down to the Board of Supervisors is it's real people and real faces that have names, that have story. I mean, this makes me cry, is because it's so easy just to get lost in the news of just one more, but suddenly when it's human being to human being, and you look in somebody's eyes, and that they're not you, but they're you, and I can get a little bit closer to, I can't imagine what your life is and what it is when you send your kids off to school and when you don't know what, I mean, but somehow breathing together, it just drops to a whole other place, and you're just human beings caring about each other. It's what we need. So anyway, okay, so I'm gonna put,
No, do you want to speak?
oh, go ahead.
I dropped by the hunger strike yesterday. I didn't sit because I had something else I was doing. But one of the women there said, you know what